Right now, there is a very real, incredibly high statistical probability that a microscopic parasite is quietly thriving deep inside your brain tissue. It has entirely bypassed your immune system. It successfully crossed your blood-brain barrier. And it's completely possible that this silent passenger is fundamentally altering your personality, your fears, and your everyday decisions without you ever even realizing it.
We are talking about an estimated 2 billion people globally who are currently infected with this organism. And in some regions, the numbers are absolutely staggering. If you're watching this from France, for example, the seroprevalence is hovering right around 45%. That means nearly half the population is carrying this parasite. This isn't some rare tropical disease we're looking at. This is a massive, invisible, global phenomenon.
The organism we're looking at is called Toxoplasma gondii. It's an obligate intracellular parasite, which basically means it can only survive and multiply by hijacking the inside of a host's cells. When it enters a human body, it obviously faces our immune defenses. So to survive, it retreats into our most highly protected tissues, our muscles and our central nervous system. It embeds itself right into the brain as slow-growing dormant tissue cysts. And for the vast majority of healthy people, it just stays there for life.
But why is it in our brains in the first place? Well, bizarrely enough, human infection is actually an evolutionary dead end. Toxoplasma gondii has a very specific biological imperative. It can only sexually reproduce inside the intestine of a cat. No other environment works. Because of that, any intermediate hosted infects, whether that's a bird, a rodent, or you and me, must eventually be consumed by a feline for the parasite to actually complete its life cycle.
To ensure it reaches a cat, this parasite has developed a frankly terrifying survival strategy. Just look at what happens in laboratory mice. An uninfected mouse has a deeply ingrained innate terror of cat odor. It runs away immediately. But a mouse infected with Toxoplasma undergoes this profound behavioral shift. It completely loses its fear of predators. It actually develops a fatal attraction, actively seeking out the scent of cat urine, practically begging to be eaten so the parasite can reproduce. Exactly how it pulls off this mind control is chilling. Studies out of Stanford analyzing the infected mouse amygdala, which is the brain's fear center, reveal a literal hijacking. The parasite induces epigenetic modifications in the host's DNA. Specifically, it causes hypomethylation of the AVP promoter. In plain English, it physically tampers with the genetic switches that control fear hormones, completely shutting down the brain's natural fear response in that localized area.
You can really think of Toxoplasma gondii as a master biological hacker. It infiltrates your system and embeds itself, but it deliberately doesn't destroy the brain cells, because destroying the cells would be like smashing the computer hardware. Instead, it just quietly rewrites the chemical operating system. By altering core neurotransmitters and hormones, specifically things like dopamine and testosterone, it subtly manipulates the host's behavior completely undetected.
And the sheer mechanical genius of how it does this is staggering. A landmark PLOS-1 study revealed that Toxoplasma actually carries its own genes for a tyrosine hydroxylase enzyme. What does that mean? It means the parasite can synthesize L-DOPA all on its own, allowing it to directly pump excess dopamine right into the human host's neural cells. It's literally manufacturing its own mind-altering chemicals inside your head. So what exactly happens when this hacker gets into a human brain? Now, we aren't naturally preyed upon by house cats, obviously, but our brains run in the exact same chemical operating system as those mice. With elevated dopamine and testosterone suppressing our fear responses, humans exhibit measurable real-world changes. A fascinating study showed that infected individuals are significantly more likely to major in business, specialize in entrepreneurship, and start their own companies. This subtle chemical manipulation manifests as elevated risk-taking in our daily lives.
But this artificially suppressed fear can build into something much more dangerous. Over 30 years of meticulous research by evolutionary biologist Dr. Jaroslav Fleg has uncovered the much darker side of this phenomenon. His studies consistently link latent toxoplasmosis to delayed reaction times and significantly higher rates of fatal traffic accidents. He's also documented sex-specific personality shifts, finding that infected men often display more antisocial, suspicious, and rule-breaking traits.
To truly understand the complete picture here, we have to untangle a crucial scientific nuance. There are really two distinct forces at play in an infected brain. The first is the manipulation hypothesis. That's the active hacking we just talked about, the parasite directly altering neurotransmitter levels like dopamine and testosterone to change how you behave. But then there's the host immune response. Your immune system doesn't just ignore these brain cysts, it constantly tries to attack them. This causes chronic neuroinflammation and severe collateral damage to your brain's glutamate and GABA pathways. It's basically a lifelong localized war inside your head.
And it is exactly this chronic inflammation and neurotransmitter dysregulation that leads to some very alarming clinical realities. Emerging science has repeatedly found strong correlations between Toxoplasma infection and the onset of severe psychiatric conditions like schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and OCD. Furthermore, a major 2024 paper published in Nature Communications firmly linked this chronic parasitic neuroinflammation to accelerated long-term cognitive decline and neurodegeneration. The sheer presence of the parasite severely destabilizes the delicate chemical balance required for a healthy mind.
So how do 2 billion people catch a brain parasite without noticing? Well, it's not just from scooping the cat litter, though that's the famous one. It is a silent transmission primarily driven by our food system. The vast majority of people unknowingly contract Toxoplasma gondii by consuming undercooked, contaminated meat or by eating unwashed produce that has come into contact with soil containing the parasite's microscopic oocysts.
For healthy individuals, the infection remains latent, slowly pulling those behavioral strings in the background. But we absolutely must ground this in clinical reality. For immunocompromised individuals and pregnant women, Toxoplasma isn't just a quirky behavioral hacker. It's an acute, life-threatening medical emergency. In patients with weakened immune systems, the parasite can reactivate and cause fatal cerebral toxoplasmosis. And if a woman is infected for the very first time during pregnancy, the parasite can cross the placenta, causing devastating congenital defects in the developing fetus.
All of this brings us to a deeply unsettling question to end on. If a single microscopic organism hiding completely silently in your brain tissue can fundamentally rewrite your dopamine levels, suppress your natural fears, and subtly alter the trajectory of your life choices, how much of your personality is actually you, and how much of it is the parasite? If you found this explainer eye-opening, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps us keep diving into the hidden science that shapes our world. And join us for our next explainer, where we're going to uncover the other hidden parasites quietly manipulating human health. See you then.